So it's enough for me to toot my own horn about why frameworks are important. Of course, it's what I teach. But I thought I'd do something different inside this episode and talk about 3 case studies that really are a case for the power of having a signature coaching framework inside of your world and what it's done for 3 of our amazing students. And definitely stay tuned to the end where I talk about an amazing opportunity coming up for you to join our only live cohort of the Framework Builder Lab. Welcome back, friends, to this week's episode of the BDC Show. I'm so excited you're here. And we have a lot of exciting things cooking, and we're continuing our 3-part series all around frameworks. Today, we're going to be talking about a case for having a signature framework. So I'm going to be sharing 3 examples of amazing clients that we've worked with inside of the Framework Builder Lab and how having a framework has drastically improved their confidence, their clarity, and their ability to attract clients and make money, which is something that we are all after. And before we dive in, though, I want to remind you that we are doing something special around here. By honestly demand and requests, and our clients that are in the BDC are like, you should do this again. When we first launched the Framework Builder Lab, we did it in live cohorts. And while I love that, it also wasn't necessarily a scalable way for me to continue. I didn't really want to be in a live launch cycle over and over. And so we've built an amazing opportunity. You can join the Framework Builder Lab at any point, but we're doing something exclusive as we end 2024. And we are hosting our only live cohort of the Framework Builder Lab. So what that means is it's a live cohort. We start October the 30th. It's a Wednesday, and we go for 6 consecutive Wednesdays together in a group. I'm going to be teaching the entire framework building process live. And you get to be there with other amazing coaches. You get to ask live Q&A. We're going to see each other's faces. And my goal is to support you thoroughly to build out your framework. So when you finish this 6 weeks, you will have your own signature framework. You are going to have a visual that represents your framework. You are also going to understand how to pull out what I call micro and acute frameworks to make your coaching more potent. I have a workbook that's going to guide the entire process as well. And in general, you're going to walk away feeling totally confident, totally clear, and ready to show up like the expert that you are, which is really where the framework comes in. I want you to be the purple duck. And a framework's going to help you do that, right? Because think about it, results, framework drives results, and those results elevate you like no other. I share a lot on my webinar how when Justin and I were in loads of debt and we started looking for support to get out of debt and build wealth, we went to the internet and we went to friends, and everything pointed back to this one person's framework, this one personal finance coach who is the purple duck in the industry. And it's because his framework is a proven process that guarantees results. And so everybody talks about it. And you have the capacity to do the same. Think about it. Every amazing coach is known for their framework. And anytime you come inside my world, you're going to feel how the power of what frameworks are and how they impact you as a coach and how they impact the way you run your business and the way you show up for clients. So I would love for you to join us. You can sign up at amanda-walker.com/lab to learn more. Again, it's a 6-week process. We will start the last week of October and finish before the holidays in December. And you're just going to be like so supported during this 6 weeks. And I'm just really excited to have you there. So, but back to the content for today. It is 2024. There's lots of brilliant coaches out there. And so standing out does feel a bit impossible and it feels frustrating. You feel like that hidden gem. And sometimes you're like, how do I not blend in like every other coach on the internet? And so even worse, I think sometimes you tell yourself is that like you aren't legit. There's this imposter. You're left wondering like, how do I stand out? Why would someone pick me? Are they going to really pay for my services? And so for me, a framework is the one thing that will help you stand out. It adds credibility to what you do. It's a fast track to trust, and it increases your potential client's ability to really let go of objections when they're like, oh, Amanda has a process. It's been proven. Like, look at all her case studies. Look at her examples. And so today I thought what I would do is really create a case for having a signature framework. And I'm going to do it by sharing 3 specific examples of clients that are graduates of the Framework Builder Lab, have even moved into some of our other programs. And you might even be thinking like, I don't think I have all that it takes. I'm not sure if I'm ready to build a framework. I promise you that through hearing about these 3 examples, you're going to see yourself inside of one of the stories, and see how important it is for you to really have a framework. And so I hope you will just love listening to these three amazing coaches and what they've done after entering into the Framework Builder Lab. And so I'm going to start with client number one, and I'm going to share Amanda's story. So Amanda is a former teacher. She actually spent 16-something years in the curriculum development space. Something she shared about being in the lab was that just the first chunk, the first module alone that I teach saved her years of just planning and potential failures, because I help you really navigate all of that before even working with a client. But she actually has been running an art business, but she has a background in curriculum development, and she was ready to create a business helping small business owners that are ready to hire bring on support. So she'd done a lot of hiring in her life. She'd been helping others in corporate environments, teaching environments do this. And so she's learned a thing or two. And she knows that you can go out and you can look at these resumes, but like, how do I really know what I need? And what does that process look like to actually onboard a new hire? And so she came to me because up until this moment, she'd done a lot of done-for-you services. So in other words, you hired her, she went out, she did all of the work, hiring for you. And while that was beautiful, it takes a lot of energy and work. And so she knew that the long-term vision of her business was to also have basically you go do it yourself, right? I coach you through the process. Instead of done for you, it's transitioning to a done with you service. So I know many of you are out there, like Diane, another one of us who teaches systems, another student of ours who actually is a nutritionist, and she teaches macro tracking, and she would create the macro tracking targets for her clients. And so she was like, I want to do it, like teach them how to do it, right? So there's a lot of you out there that are probably doing the work for your clients, which is great. You're getting paid to do something you love, but also there's a cap there, right? It goes back to the first part of this series of scaling from one-to-one to group coaching. It looks different too. Done for you looks different than done with you or independent study. And so she was like, Amanda, I'm having a really hard time. Just like, I'm so used to doing it for them that I don't really know how to create a framework that really guides them through the process of hiring on their own. And so what we had to do is just strip it back, simplify, right? And so one of the things I teach you to do in the lab is step one, we reverse design. So I will ask you to create a list of the tangible outcomes that by the end of the client container with you, you want your client to have. And so Amanda was like, okay, yeah, let's make it simple. Like, let's just go to the end. Something like a clear job description, a clear task list. They want to actually have that new team member hired. They want a 30, 60, 90 of what's going to happen when that client comes into, that new hire comes into their life. So we're like, sweet, Amanda, now we have these, then what's first? What's second? What's third, right? And we began to create the pillars. And so why I share Amanda's story is that no matter what you're doing now, whether it's one-to-one, whether it's done for you services, that there is a framework in there, even if you don't think there is. Even if you're just starting out, right? And you've never coached a client before, which I'll talk about in client case study number 3, is I'm going to help you identify by actually starting at the end. It's the first step of the process of what specific outcomes you want. And then we're going to figure out how we're going to build it from there. So now Amanda has this framework. She's actually like getting rid of her time, less time per client now. She's able to even coach multiple clients at a time through this process if she wants, because she has a clear and concise framework that walks them through the process. So I know many of you are feeling that as well inside of your business. So let's talk about case study number 2. Carrie, coolest niche ever. Carrie is just a beautiful soul that I had inside the FBL, and she is kind of a copywriter by trade and has done a lot of back-end copywriting, but she discovered she had this passion for actually helping people write their life stories, and specifically people over the age of 60 who are starting to think about their end of life. They've built these beautiful families and they're like, oh my goodness, I don't feel like my family knows everything about me. Like, I want to have a way to like preserve my story and for me to enjoy this story and to see all that I've done. But you could imagine that process is quite tedious, right? How is Carrie going to communicate with one person to like pull all of this information out? And photography, like photos included in this process, right? So there is a lot of overwhelm. And Carrie had somewhat done this, but she felt like, hey, it's kind of choppy, Amanda. I'm really having a hard time pulling it together. And the thought of even trying to teach multiple people at a time was really overwhelming. And she'd recently had the opportunity to go into some active adult communities and teach workshops. And so she was really stuck on, how do I teach 30 people in this room to get started? And she didn't want to lose out on these opportunities. And so inside the FBL, she created the Legacy Blueprint. And this was her essentially 3-part process to helping 16 over adults write out their life story. But here's what I love is, at one point, I remember one of the calls, she was like in tears of gratitude because she was overcomplicating the process, to be honest. And she wasn't trying to include too much, which is a common mistake, cramming so much in. They're trying to drink from a fire hose. And so what we were able to do is prioritize what was actually important in the process and what was unimportant in the process, to be able to cultivate a result that was equally beautiful to what she had in mind as well. And so what she was able to see is the potential then to continue to work with her one-to-one clients, but also use the exact same process. So here's the thing, friends. The process that you create with one-to-one clients is built so that you can scale it to groups. And when you already have that process in play and you've walked your clients through it one-to-one, then it is so much more potent and it's effortless, right? To begin to really walk the client through a group, the same experience inside of a group coaching experience as well. And so what she really ended up doing was taking small groups, like of 2 or 3 at a time. And so that gave her the intimacy of still being able to serve them. And so remember, scalability can look different for everyone. That could be one-to-one, but it could also be small groups of 2 or 3. And there's accountability in the process. And maybe you have like Voxer support with it. Those are all things we talk about in the lab. But first, we got to build the framework, and then we build the actual package and offer around it. That was also a struggle for Carrie. And a lot of our students that come into the FBL is they think that the framework, the package, and the offer are the same thing, and they are not. The framework is the process. The package is how we deliver the process. And the offer is kind of like the beautiful bow and wrapping paper that we put it on that makes it look really enticing. So our clients are like, I have to have that thing. Right? So once we were able to clear that out for Carrie, she was able to focus on the framework being separate from the actual package. And that was much lighter for her in the process as well. So I think many of you will see yourself inside of Carrie. You have all these ideas. You're trying to fit it all in. It feels a bit overwhelming. You don't know where to start. And so therefore you don't start. And so what I do in the lab is I break it into small pieces. I give you action items so that each week when you come back, you are ready to go and you can keep up with the process. And again, of course, in this cohort, you can ask real-time live questions as well. So just celebrating Carrie, who's awesome. Our final case study, which I think you're going to very much relate to, is the amazing Liz. Again, another niche. And I'm picking some people here that I want you to know that frameworks are for every type of coach, whether you're a general life coach or whether you are super niched. A framework is a process that serves everyone. Liz is an adoption mentor in the UK. So she helps prospective adoptive parents get a yes from the adoption panel. And what I love about Liz's story, which I think many of you can relate, is she'd invested lots of money in programs that underdelivered. She got in and they felt great, parts of them, but what she felt like was they were unclear. They lacked a framework, to be honest. And she wasn't really walking away with like a tangible delivery that she could actually walk clients through. And in her process, there's a lot of steps in preparation and there's a lot of fear and worry that comes from the process of adoption. And so she was having a hard time like packaging it all up. So she had a zillion ideas and, sometimes just the paperwork through this process can feel super overwhelming. And so it was, how do I break those things down? And so one of the things she said is she could see her framework like getting put together in real time, like Tom Hanks solving the Da Vinci Code. Because if you're like Liz, she had all these ideas up in her brain, and she had a lot of doubt about herself and doubt about the potential of actually making this work, because to her experience so far, the coaching programs or the business program she'd invested in didn't really help her pull what was out inside of her brain and then create a tangible way. Because often what I see is there's a lot of coaches out there that are great at marketing that pull us in, but then we get inside of their programs and they're under-delivered because they actually lack the clarity in a framework. So I don't want you to have the same struggle. And so the beautiful thing about the FBL for her is that she was able to, in real time, figure out the tangible ways to communicate and create a framework built around the tangible things that many of you don't feel like you have. You're like, oh, but I like the outcomes that they get are tangible. They're hopeful and they're fearless and they're empowered. The problem with that is people don't buy intangible outcomes. They buy tangible outcomes. People don't buy your coaching. They're buying results. So when you get really good through the process of figuring out what the tangible results are, like Liz did, then you actually become a better marketer, right? Which leads to more profit and leads to more confidence in the way you show up. And so then what happened for Liz was she actually began to create content. She actually showed up on IG. She's had some workshops. She has clients. She's stopped, honestly, selling or giving away her services for free, which has been a massive shift for her. She didn't believe in her process. And so she would constantly avoid and push away people that were coming to her because she felt like this imposter. Then she had a framework. And she also jumped inside the BDC. And now everything is beginning to shift for her. She's even been invited to be a guest on podcasts. She talks about her framework on those. So this is the power of what having a framework could potentially look like for you as well. I could talk about hundreds of other students from the Framework Builder Lab that are a case for having a signature framework. But what I want to reiterate through today's conversation is that the tangible thing you will walk away with in the Framework Builder Lab is, of course, a proprietary process that nobody else in the world is going to have but you. It's going to be your own brain, your own thinking, your own steps. It's going to look like anything else that anybody else out there has. But the intangible byproducts that I see happening over and over for people is the amount of clarity and confidence they get by having a framework propels them into action. Students that have been in analysis paralysis or stuck in the perfection trap all of a sudden leave our coaching experience with a new level of energy and momentum in their business that has been lacking, and they just didn't know it. So I like to think sometimes the framework is often the missing link that maybe you don't know that you need. And I'm just here to remind you of it. And so I would so love for you to come join us in our only live cohort of the Framework Builder Lab. Again, you can head on over to amanda-walker.com/lab to sign up. Again, just the fine details. This is a 6-week live cohort. It's you and me live with other brilliant coaches. There is a Facebook community to support it. You can ask questions on these sessions. You will get access to the replays. You will also get access to our course that is built around frameworks. So this is an amazing way to end your year in 2024 with tons of momentum and clarity so that you can kickstart 2025 with total confidence in what you do and how you deliver results to your clients. So again, you can head on over to amanda-walker.com/lab to sign up. And again, if you have questions, feel free to email our team. We've got people standing by to support you. Our email is support@amanda-walker.com. Or if you have specific questions for me, I'm talking all about this on our social media as well. I'm hanging out on Instagram @awalkmyway. That is an amazing place to come. We've supported nearly just at 400 students inside the FBL over the last year and a half, plus the times I've shared and helped one-to-one clients walk through this process. So again, you're going to experience what it's like to experience a framework. So everything that I teach here is modeled through the lens of a framework. And Angeline, one of our students, sent me a text message after she started the FBL, months ago, and was like, my experience in the lab and having a framework makes me want to be the kind of coach that has a framework. And that's really what I want you to experience as well, as what it's like to walk through a process that has been proven and verified, and how much that can add value to the work that you do as a coach. So I cannot wait to see you in the lab. Again, we start October 30th. Doors close on the 29th. And we are here to support you with any questions you have. So again, join us at amanda-walker.com/lab, LAB, and we will see you on the inside.